Aloha, y'all. It is Tuesday, Tears Day, named after Tig or Tu, the Mars equivalent in the Nordic pantheon. Etymologically, esoterically, it is a Mars-ruled day, so that sinks. It's the 9th of December. Sun is in Sagittarius, 17 degrees. Moon is in Leo, 21 degrees. There's always something cooking in the kitchen astrologically. The moon is making some squares to Uranus retrograde, and Jupiter's making some trines. There's a grand water trine. We'll reference the astrology as we go, but the cards I have pulled for this Tuesday are the Three of Swords with a clarifier of the Two of Cups. And the wild card is coming from the Art Oracle deck, Grace and Perry. We'll get into that in a second. So, if you're an air sign, Gemini, Libra, or an Aquarius, your sword is the mind, though we all have a mind. And the Three of Swords is a little challenging. On page 126, I see life as cruel and meaningless. Freedom arrived at through despair, questioning everything and asking quality questions. Life is cruel and without meaning. Seeing a world which appears to be cruel and uncompromising can bring us to a point of despair. In the Three of Swords, a young man sits with his head down. We can feel his sense of deep sadness. I imagine him as a street artist, expressing his anguish through his art, which appears behind him on the wall. The head of the floating surreal figure is a mask of shame, a medieval torture device worn for the purpose of public humiliation and rejection. Jupiter retrograde trining Mercury in Scorpio, and Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio. Throughout history, people have been forced to display a mark of shame, a stigmata to deter others. This taps into something very primal. In early humans, where survival was intimately linked with collaboration, Pluto and Aquarius, to be rejected by your tribe was effectively a death sentence. In later cultures, artists, writers, intellectuals, and anyone who dared to think differently or admit different sexual orientation risked being shamed and outcast. The violence and suffering human beings can inflict on one another, and indeed all living creatures, beggars belief, and yet it still exists and cannot be ignored. Three swords are propped up against the wall. One of them looks like it's falling against the sitting figure. These swords appear as if they have been carelessly left behind by their owners. As objects, they are crafted pieces of metal sitting against the wall, yet in the hands of men, they can cause unimaginable suffering. The hawk and the feather remind us of the possibility of freedom, North Node in Pisces. Even in the face of despair, the dripping heart, painted almost as an afterthought, communicates that only through love, the heart, can we be liberated from the burdens of existence. Like, it ain't easy being green, as Kermit the Frog would say. Mercury in Scorpio is opposite Uranus retrograde in Taurus, and that Uranus is squaring the moon in Leo. So it's like being yourself sometimes doesn't click with others. I just lost my place. The luminous fetus, like the baby. The luminous fetus offers hope of rebirth, which awaits within the darkest depths. This fullness of being can only be reached when we are able to touch our deepest sorrow, Mercury in Scorpio. The roughly painted question mark gives us a clue as to how we can transform our reality. We have to question our beliefs and definitions. What is truth? Reality and truth aren't necessarily exactly the same thing. Sun, Mars, Venus in Sagittarius. The Three of Swords suggests the quality of your experience in life is directly proportional to the quality of the questions that you ask. And so another interpretation of the figure emerges. One who, like the Buddha, sits determined to penetrate the truth. It's like he's sitting under a Bodhi tree without one there. He will not move from his spot until he has an answer. Many spiritual teachings describe how we must go down through layer after layer of our personality until we get to the last layer and fall through into a meaningless and empty space. But if we are able to fall yet further into the darkness of meaninglessness, we arrive at nothing, and from no thing we can create anything. This card tells us our sorrow must be acknowledged. The despair is something we all share. When we see how it carries the seeds of new growth, we can surrender to it, allowing it to move through and transform us. The great alchemical work, right? You got to get in to get out, as Genesis would say. This is almost like Rael from The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. Probably the greatest concept album ever. If you've never heard it, go listen to it. Thank me later. Three of Swords. Freedom arrived at through despair, questioning everything and asking quality questions. Life is cruel and without meaning. Not a fun card, but a challenging card. Our minds are being challenged right now. Mercury and Scorpio opposite Uranus in Taurus retrograde, and with the sun in Sagittarius, the moon in Leo, it's like who we are is going to be challenged, but that doesn't mean give up. The Two of Cups is the clarifying card. So if you're a water sign, you're a cup, the emotions, the feels, the deep feelings, that grand water trine between Saturn and Neptune and Pisces, Jupiter retrograde in Cancer, and Mercury in Scorpio going on right now. On page 144, 12 times 12 is 144. It's the elect, the number of the whole zodiac seeing itself from every direction. The Two of Cups, I merge with the beloved, radiating the pure essence of love, practicing Tantra or Taoist beliefs, becoming aware of the cosmic balance of male and female energy. You got to have good days, you got to have bad days. Sunrise, sunset, it is what it is, but that doesn't mean you can't use it in the samsara to make a more interesting experience, right? North Node in Pisces, it's a kind of magic, but sometimes you have to like prick yourself and add some blood to the cauldron to make it bubble in a way that even surprises you. So speaking of surprising people, Grayson Perry is the art card of the day. The wild card is coming from the Artist Oracle deck, great deck. Grayson Perry is as follows. In 2003, Grayson Perry accepted the Turner Prize dressed as his female second self, Claire, and congratulated the Electoral Committee on finally recognizing, in his words, quote, a transvestite potter. The potter part is the tougher sell in the art world, where craft is often the backup dancer to concept. Working in deceptively traditional media such as ceramics and textiles, Perry uses techniques such as scrivito and photographic transfers to address contemporary subjects, including global and domestic violence, environmental emergency, his own troubled childhood, ugly politics, and all that sex stuff. His marriage to psychotherapist Philippa Perry is probably more boring than it sounds. So the advice we're getting from Grayson is scratch at the surface until your fingers bleed. It isn't always comfortable. It isn't always easy. Sometimes you got to dig pretty deep all the way down to get to the truth, Sun and Sagittarius, of who you are beyond the avatar, which rebirths your personality. But this is Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. Like, why me? Do I have to do this? This hurts. Yes, the good, the bad, the ugly, it all has to occur. It's part of the great alchemical work. And when we are our authentic selves, even in the face of social, being outcast socially or not being accepted fully or whatever, when we scratch and get deeper past the surface and our fingers bleed, that's when the hope cracks through and we've come into a higher level of magic and balance alchemically. You got to get in to get out. The Carpet Crawlers lyrics, if you just want to watch or hear one of those songs from that album that I referenced earlier, Carpet Crawlers is the one maybe to go to, and you'll get a taste of what's up. So if you know people that do not know about magic, alchemy, tarot, astrology, all the stuff I'm dropping, tag them. They might find it very helpful, and hopefully you found it helpful for yourself. Leave a tip if you feel so inclined. Obviously, holler for a reading. $150 for 3 hours of astrology, $50 for an hour of cards, 5 tarot, 5 oracle cards. It is half off if it is your birthday. Happy birthday, Sagittarians. And if it is your and if you reference somebody to me, you get a referral discount of half off on a card reading. So there's plenty of ways to get a top shelf 5-star reading for less than 100% price. So know that this too shall pass, but we have to kind of go through the dark to get to the light. It is what it is. It is what it is. The toroid has both sides, but how can we, accept good times with equanimity and not go manic about it? And how can we not slit our wrists when it's hard? The balance is the great work. The balance. See how balanced this halo of suffering and uniqueness Pluto and Aquarius is. It ain't easy, but the truth is it's got to occur. So shine bright as who you are, Sun and Sagittarius, Venus, Mars, and Sagittarius. Like, your truth is your core frequency. Don't hide it under a bushel, but know that it isn't always going to be received how you mentally expected, right? 3 of Swords. That Mercury in Scorpio, opposite Uranus in Taurus retrograde, also squaring the moon. So, on that note, I hope you enjoy your Tears Day. Holla for a reading, and I'll catch you on the flip side. Adios.